Welcome to Living the Smarter Science of Slim, where we provide a scientifically proven lifestyle for long-term health and fat loss by eating more and exercising less, but smarter.
Eat smarter, exercise smarter, live better. I am so ready for that. Hey folks, we're here talking about the smarter science of Slim. I'm Carrie Brown and I have Jonathan Bailor with me.
Special guest today.
Special guest and modern day Adonis over here in the corner.
Gary, well, you are too kind. And moving right along, let's talk about where we left off last week. Last week we talked about last couple weeks, not about calories in, calories out. Our body automatically regulates as long as it's not broken down. When it's broken down, it regulates around a higher point, so it fights to keep us heavy. We call it an elevated set point. That's due to a hormonal clog. And the way we unclog that is by increasing the quality of our eating and the quality of our exercise, drops that, unclogs us, and our body automatically regulates us around a slimmer set point, much like naturally thin people.
Well, last time, what I remember is that you told me after we had finished that I didn't talk much, so I'm going to be interrupting you all episode long today.
Yes, we should put a poll up. We'll put a poll up, and it'll be, well, how do you feel about the Jonathan versus Carrie talking? And you can rate like more Jonathan talking or like less Jonathan, more Carrie talking. No, we may or may not do that, but I think we're going to get comments no matter what we do at this point. So, okay, so the number one question we get asked though when we talk about the set point is, okay, hold on. If the set point is true, how can it be true? Because eating less causes weight loss and exercising more causes weight loss, and doesn't exercising less cause fat gain and eating more cause fat gain? Carrie.
I know the answer.
What is the answer?
Well, I know the answer to some of it because eating less does not equal fat loss and nor does exercising more. And I know that because I did it really, really, really hard for long enough to know that it doesn't work.
It doesn't work long term. And that's the key. It may be a bit of a semantic issue, but yes, eating less and exercising more causes weight loss temporarily, just like pouring gasoline over your garden will kill the weeds. Yes, it will kill the weeds, but it will destroy everything else. It's not a good long-term strategy, and we're after long-term health and fitness. So the question is, does eating less and exercising more help you achieve long-term wellness? And does eating more and exercising less compromise your ability to achieve long-term wellness? And we're going to see some pretty surprising science about each of those statements.
I'm excited to hear that.
So I like to actually call them the 4 fallacies. And again, those fallacies, proven to be fallacies, we'll step through the first one today. The first fallacy is eating less causes fat loss. The second is exercising more causes fat loss. The third is exercising less causes fat gain. And the fourth is that eating more causes fat gain. So let's talk about the first one today. Talk about one each podcast or so for the next few podcasts. So eating less causes fat loss. False.
Ding, 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 ding.
False.
You are correct.
False. What it actually causes, it causes us to slow down. It causes us to burn muscle. It causes us to worsen the hormonal clog causing the problem in the first place. And it may burn some fat, but only after it's done all that other stuff.
So maybe that's why my arms are as weak as wet spaghetti, because I spent too long doing it that way and lost muscle and not fat.
Carrie, unfortunately, the studies are unequivocal here, and that's when we just eat less. When we just, again, now think about this, we're starving ourselves. Up to 70% of the non-water weight we lose is coming from muscle and not fat.
Wow.
So a full 70%. So if you lose 10 pounds, let's say you lose 10 pounds of non-water weight, research has shown that up to 7 of those pounds is coming from muscle, not from fat. Now, if you gain that 10 pounds back, that's all coming back in the form of fat. So now you've actually got 7 more pounds of fat on your body than you had before you ate less.
That's scary.
It's very scary. And it makes intuitive sense, right? If we're starving, which is what we are, when we just eat less, our body's starving, what does our body want to burn, right? It wants to burn the tissue that's burning a bunch of calories. It's in a state of caloric shortage. What's it want to do? Preserve calories. What burns a lot of calories? Muscle. So that's what it's going to burn off.
Got it. That makes sense now you've put it that way.
And we really don't want to burn off muscle, right? None of us are like, you know what? I just want to burn off my muscle. We want to be slimmer. We want to be healthier. Muscle takes up way less space than fat. It keeps us healthy. It burns calories. It helps our hormonal balance. We want to keep and potentially even develop some compact muscle tissue while we burn fat. Starving your body burns everything, and it burns predominantly muscle for a lot of us. So it's not good from that perspective.
That makes me want to just head out the studio and go eat something.
Yep, well, it depends what you're eating, but yes, absolutely. The other thing to keep in mind is when we eat less, our body just slows down. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to burn fat at all, right? If it doesn't have enough calories, it just runs slower, and we've all experienced this. Forget about going on a diet. Like, we just don't eat for 6-8 hours. We're tired, and we've got a headache, and our mind is foggy. That's because our body and our mind just slow down to make up for the calories we're not consuming.
I've experienced that way too often. I'm actually not, I always have said that my hunger and my thirst buttons were broke because I have the ability. Makes it sound like I'm something I'm proud of. I'm not. But I can actually like go for 3 days and not drink anything and not be thirsty. But I think that's just something with me. Either I've trained my body to not pay any attention to the hunger or thirst signals, or I don't know what it is, but it's good to know that has such a detrimental effect on you, whether you do it deliberately or not. It's not good.
It's absolutely not good. And taking a step back, I do think it's a bit funny / unfortunate that we have to explicitly make the point that starvation is unhealthy. Because really, that's what we're talking about, right? Starvation is not healthy. In fact, leading up to about, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, every single aspect of our biology was designed to avoid starving, right? It was feast or famine. Oh, we don't have any crops this year. Well, what's our body going to do? I mean, starving, not having enough food is unhealthy. Our body does not like being in that state. It's a stress.
Well, I know emotionally mine doesn't either.
And the mind doesn't either. So actually, Dr. Thorpe in the Journal of the American Medical Association just reminds us that eating less doesn't make us lose weight by selective reduction of body fat, but by wasting of all body tissues. The reason this matters so much, Dr. Thorpe continues, is that therefore, any success obtained must be maintained by chronic undernourishment. Now let's break this down, Carrie, because this goes back to the last podcast where we talked about if we're going to do anything, we need to be able to keep it up forever. And we don't just want to do anything. Like, please don't eat less and exercise more unless you plan on keeping it up for the rest of your life. Because if you start and you ever stop, you won't just go back to where you started. You are biologically guaranteed to be worse off than if you did nothing. And we already kind of touched on why. You're going to burn a bunch of muscle and you're going to slow down your metabolism. So if you go back to eating what you used to be eating, you will gain all of the 70% or so of the weight that you lost from muscle will come back as fat, and your metabolism is slowed down. So now it's going to take even fewer calories than it took before for you to gain that weight back. So you eat less, your body detects starvation, you slow down, you burn muscle, you achieve temporary weight loss.
Is that like that, how to lose 10 pounds in 48 hours kind of?
Exactly.
Deal?
But hunger will win. Then you're going to gain all the weight back as fat. And we've all experienced this, right? It's called yo-yo dieting. And Dr. Gardner at Michigan State University tells us through his research that it's only the rate of weight regain, not the fact of weight regain, that appears to be open to debate. Like, he basically just says, it's going to happen. The weight will come back. It's just how fast it's going to come back.
And to be clear, this isn't, the world according to Jonathan Bailor. This is biological, proven fact.
Absolutely. Well, let's dig into some of that facts. Let's talk about some study. And think about this, I like to think about this as side effects. So eating less and exercising more has side effects. One of the side effects are you burn muscle. Another one of the side effects are your metabolism slows down. Let's talk about that. So, study performed at the University of Geneva. We had a group of normal rats. Actually, Carrie, I got to disclaim this study because this really is one of my favorite studies. And it had to do with rats, but we can also talk about it, what it would have kind of been like if we did it on humans. So we have normal rats. So picture this as just like a normal, let's say, a 40-year-old woman. So normal 40-year-old woman, normal rats in the study. Then we had rats who were eating less. These are rats that were forced to consume less calories. Think about this 40-year-old woman who is on a diet, cutting calories, 1,200 calories a day. Then we had in the study young, naturally skinnier rats. So these would be, college-age women who naturally fit into those size 4s that the 40-year-old woman is eating 700 calories a day attempting to fit into. Okay, so these 3 groups of rats. And what happened, so for the first 10 days of the study, we had the normal rats eating normally and the eat less group, or the dieting rats, eating less. So that was days 1 through 10. On day 10, the researchers began to monitor the skinny, the naturally, or these college-age girls, but these skinny rats. And they, again, just let the skinny rats eat normally. They let the normal rats eat normally. The only change they made is they took the rats who had dieted and just let them eat normally. They said, oh, now you can just eat normally. So the question, Carrie, that I have for you, 3 groups of rats. One is eating normally for 35 days. Another is dieting for the first 10 and then eating normally for 25. And a third group, which came into the mix on day 10, was naturally thin and then ate normally. The question is, which group at the end of the study was the heaviest?
Well, from what we've been told for the last 40 years, I would have to say the heavy ones would be the ones that just ate normally.
Yeah, according to everything we've been told, it seems almost nonsensical to think anything else, right? But that skinny group is naturally skinny, so they're going to be skinnier, and the dieting rats, they dieted, so they must weigh less, right?
Because over the 35 days, they consumed less calories, so they must end up skinnier.
Well, here's what the study actually showed. Surprise, the rats who dieted weighed dramatically more by the end of the study. And the reason for that is...
Wow, I'm looking at that chart. That is dramatic.
So the way the researchers put it is that, and again, this took place at the University of Colorado, when we eat less, metabolic adjustments occur, which contribute to a large potential energy imbalance that when forcible control of energy intake is relieved, that results in exceptionally high rates of weight regain. And I will post this chart as well up on the show notes, but the gist is that the rats who ate less ended up weighing the most because of the metabolic damage that caused to their body.
That makes me want to go out and eat something too.
So, but again, think about this here, Carrie. It makes sense. After our metabolism is starved, its number one priority is restoring everything that it lost. And then, frankly, protecting us from starvation in the future. Because now it's like, oh my God, I could starve at any point in time. I better store some extra fat in case that happens. And again, that is a proven phenomena. It's called fat superaccumulation. And researcher Young at the University of Texas tells us this study we're talking about here and other studies strongly suggest fat superaccumulation after energy restriction is a major factor contributing to relapsing obesity that is so often observed in humans.
Okay, so at the risk of derailing things, and tell me to shut up if you don't want to answer this now, but do you have a view on fasting? Because I know there's some religions, but there's also some lifestyles that encourage, say, 1 day a month fasting, or 1 day a week, Sunday fasting. What do you think about fasting? Where does that fit into all this?
I think if an individual is eating high quality food and eating a lot of high quality food and doing a little high quality exercise, things like occasional fasting, assuming that it's intentional and for the right reasons, is not going to be a long-term problem. Again, remember that our body is a resilient, wonderful, robust machine that can adapt to almost anything. So as long as we're not chronically just beating the heck out of it with the wrong quality of food and the wrong quality of exercise, it can rebound. And actually, that's an important point, because in listening to this, people might be like, oh my God, I've been trying to eat less and exercise more my whole life. Have I just broken myself? Like, am I just, might as well give up because I've done so much damage? The good news is no, it might take a little bit longer for you to heal. Just like, had the same injury over and over again, it's going to take longer for it to heal after every single time. But you're not broken. The body can repair itself, but we just need to give it the right quality of stuff to do that.
So what you're saying, what I'm hearing, is there's hope. It doesn't matter really how far down the track you've gone. There's a way that you can get me, for example, back to where I was when I was 25.
Yes, it may take you a little bit longer than, let's say, someone who is 27 and may have only been eating less and exercising more for 2 years, because we're talking about eating more high quality food and doing less but higher quality exercise. And, that's really not that hard.
Well, and, for me, as long as there's hope, that's more than I've had in 4 years. So, because, I got to the point where there was no hope because nothing worked. So if there's hope, I'm in.
And there is hope. And I don't want to make this sort of a sad podcast, but I really want everyone to walk away from this podcast never again starving themselves, because it's just not healthy. So let's go back to the study we just talked about. And Carrie, you made a point which I really do want to emphasize, and this is shocking because the rats that dieted, quote unquote, they're rats, they weren't intentionally dieting, ended up weighing the most, but they consumed the same amount of calories as the normal group. And this is true. Like in the study, the thing that is surprising, you may be thinking to yourself, okay, the rats who were starved just went crazy. Like when they stopped being starved, they overcompensated and ate a bunch of food. But here's what's so amazing. They didn't. The rats who dieted, they were just eating the same amount as the normal group and the skinny group. They didn't eat any more food. So we have 3 groups of rats all consuming the same quantity of food, but one group puts on way more fat. So the same quantity and the same quality, Carrie. The question then is, 3 groups, they're all eating the same quantity, they're all eating the same quality. How in the heck can we see different rates of fat gain? What could be different? Well, what could be different is the metabolism itself. Take the metabolism, slow it down, clog it up, and give it the same quantity and quality of calories, and it will store more fat.
Because all of these processes are biological, they're controlled by hormones, they're not controlled by us.
Exactly. We can control the quality of our food and the quality of our exercise, and therefore indirectly control our hormones. And heck, some people do things with drugs and such that impact their hormones, but we're not going to talk about that here today. The key thing, though, is that even in this study, and Carrie, again, this is not about sadness. This is about educating ourselves so we don't do anything in the future that harms our long-term health and fitness. Carrie, at the end of this study, the researchers found, and again, remember, there was only 10 days of dieting or just eating less, that the metabolisms of the rats who dieted burnt fat less efficiently by over 500%. So their metabolisms were over 500% less efficient at burning fat, and their metabolisms had then slowed down by 15%. The investigators or the researchers remarked, these investigations provide direct evidence for the existence of a specific metabolic component that contributes to an elevated efficiency of energy utilization during refeeding after low food consumption or after eating less stops. We've been calling that specific metabolic component a clogged up and slowed down metabolism that just completely destroys our body's ability to burn fat and clogs us up and causes us to store more fat than we'd like.
That's madness. So it's fascinating to me how, you could starve yourself for this short period of time, but the effects of that go on for a very long time afterwards.
They do, unless we do something to intervene, and we can. And that's why. Well, we'll get into the solution later, folks. But again, it's eating more, but high quality food, and exercising less, but with high quality. And think of that quality. It's like a medicine. It's like Well, I forget who said it. I'm sure someone will comment in the show notes. Let food be thy medicine. I think it was some old ancient Greek. I think it may have been Hippocrates or something like that. Let food be thy medicine. Folks, food is an incredibly powerful substance. We all know this. And when we do exercise correctly, it can also be incredibly powerful and incredibly therapeutic. We can use these tools to heal ourselves, but we have to do something different. It's not about doing more of the same. It's not about walking on the treadmill for longer or going to another boot camp class or eating 100-calorie snack packs. It's about eating more nutrition and doing more resistance in a safe fashion when we exercise. And frankly, Dr. Weigel at the University of Washington tells us point blank, a general public health recommendation for weight reduction through dieting cannot be supported strongly with existing data. So Well, I want to do, we might go a little bit long in this podcast because this is one of my favorite subjects, but I want to do 2 more studies and then I want to do a quick analogy. And let's do the second study first. So this is a human study. The reason I wanted to include it is because we haven't talked about many human studies. This study really illustrates the long-term side effects. Because I'm not going to sit here and argue with anyone. Of course it causes short-term weight loss, yes. But the question is, what are the long-term side effects? So this was done at Rockefeller University. And they had a group of people weighing an average of 335 pounds who starved themselves down to 220 pounds. Now, okay, again, temporary weight loss. They absolutely did, right? People 335 pounds starved themselves and lost 115 pounds. So,
wow.
I mean, that's, oh my God, look, Carrie, I lost 115 pounds. Woohoo!
What did you do? I didn't eat.
I didn't eat. That's amazing. We should start a television show about this. But the question now is, after that starvation period was over, the researchers wanted to see what impact that had on the now 220-pound dieters' ability to burn fat. So this is really fascinating, Carrie. They brought in people who were the same age, but were naturally slim. So they had really 3 groups of people to compare here. They had the metabolisms of the 335-pound people before they starved themselves. Then they had the metabolisms of the formerly 335-pound people who now weighed 220 pounds. And then they had people of the same age who only weighed 138 pounds.
Okay, so that's where their weight was.
Yeah, so again, just naturally at 138. So we would imagine that much like a larger SUV would require more gasoline than a smaller motorcycle, the non-starved 335-pound people, so the individuals before they starvation dieted, should need more calories per day than the naturally 138-pound people, right?
Right.
That just makes sense. And that is what the research showed. So individuals, when the people who, again, starved themselves down to 220, started at 335. When they weighed 335, they needed 3,651 calories per day on average. So they're not going to gain or lose weight. That's how many calories they need. The naturally 138-pound people needed 2,280 calories per day. Okay, makes sense, right? All things being equal, more body weight means more calories needed. So we would now expect, okay, those 335-pound people lose 115 pounds. How many calories do they need now? They still weigh, I can do the math, they still weigh significantly more than the 138-pound people. But Carrie, this is amazing. The 220-pound people who starved themselves down to that weight, they required 2,171 calories per day. The 138-pound people required 2,280 calories per day, aka they naturally burnt more calories per day despite weighing way less.
Because they still weighed half as much.
They still weighed, well, not half as much, but about 80 pounds less. 80 pounds less. So imagine what these 220-pound people now have to deal with. They basically have to eat less than someone
just to stay where they are.
Just to stay there.
Right.
Because of what they've done to their metabolism. Dr. Kesey over at the University of Wisconsin tells us that disproportionately large declines in resting metabolism are seen in food-deprived people. So again, what are the side effects? We're going to do another study. This study goes way back in time to around World War II. I love this study because this study reminds us that, again, starvation is not bad. This study was conducted at the University of Minnesota because researchers wanted to see how to help people who were actually starving in Europe because they couldn't eat because of World War II, how to help them. So they recruited a group of conscientious objectors here in the States who were not fighting in World War II and starved them to see how they could then heal those people. But a couple things that are interesting here, Carrie. One is how they starved them. So get this. They put them on a 1,600 calorie per day diet and had them walk a few miles.
Okay.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but many popular eat less, exercise more techniques today would think 1,600 calories per day and just walking a few miles, that's, what are you talking about? 1,200 calories per day and give me 2 hours on the elliptical.
Yeah, it's hardly starvation, is it?
What did these researchers observe? Well, the individual's metabolisms slowed down by 40%. And this was just on 1,600 calories per day. And at the same time, their strength fell by 28%, their endurance fell by 79%, and their rates of depression rose by 36%.
Wow. That makes me want to go eat something.
And hopefully eat something for the right reasons. And but let's put that in perspective. Just that 40% decline in metabolism. So let's take you, for example, Carrie. Is it okay? I'm going to use you as an example here.
Sure.
Okay.
I'll be your guinea pig.
My rat.
Your rat.
My rat.
I think I'd rather be a guinea pig.
That's fair. So, Carrie, let's say that you need to eat 2,000 calories per day, but you want to, this is before the Smarter Science of Slim.
Right.
And you wanted to drop a few pounds before your vacation in 2 weeks. So
Okay.
you read a magazine which tells you need to eat less and exercise more, aka starve yourself.
Okay.
Right? It's a euphemism for starve yourself. So you cut back to 1,600 calories per day.
Okay.
According to this study, your metabolism will now slow down by 40%. So that means you only need 1,200 calories per day
To keep me where I'm at.
to keep you where you're at. So before you ate less, you needed 2,000 calories per day, and let's say you were eating 2,000 calories per day. Now you're eating less. You only need 1,200 calories per day, but you're eating 1,600 calories per day. And when you stop eating less, when you actually go on your vacation, you'll eat 2,000 calories per day, but only need 1,200.
That's a problem.
That's not helpful.
That's a problem.
That's not, so you're going through this pain and it's not even helping. Like, it's actually hurting you. Please don't do that, because going back to this actual World War II study now, in addition to destroying their metabolisms and becoming depressed, as soon as these subjects stopped eating less, they ate an average of 5,000 calories per day until they gained all the weight back plus 5%. But here's really the key. I mean, 5,000 calories per day, all the weight back plus 5%, that's nothing to laugh at. That's actually the good news. The bad news is that because all that weight lost was mostly from muscle, when this was all said and done, Carrie, and they were back at their weight plus 5%, their body fat percentage was 52% higher than before they starved themselves.
Whoa.
Because they burnt off a bunch of muscle, gained all the weight back as fat, and then some.
Wow.
And, okay, folks, I'm actually feeling bad here.
Are we nearly done? I want to go eat.
No, hold on. Because please don't starve. Starvation is not healthy. That's the name of this show is, not the name of the whole show, the name of this podcast is Starvation is not healthy. And Jonathan is on his soapbox. That's going to be subtitle, Jonathan on soapbox.
I want to eat.
So hold on, another study, yo-yo dieting, right? This is what we see here. Oh my God, I gained back. I'm 52% fatter than I was before. So now I definitely have to go on a diet when I get back from my vacation.
Right.
So now I have to go on a diet. Carrie's going to go on a diet when she gets back from her vacation. So we yo-yo. Let's talk about yo-yo dieting studies. Let's just do one of them. University of Pennsylvania, back to the rats. What do the researchers do? They took the rats. They put them on a fattening diet. The rats gained weight. They then starved them so that they lost weight. They then gained the weight back, starved them again, lost weight, ate more. So they basically yo-yoed up, down, back down, and then back up. So not uncommon for people. Now here's what's amazing, Carrie. The second time the rats tried to lose weight, they lost weight 100% slower and then regained the weight 300% faster than the first time they did it.
This is like a recurring nightmare. It just gets worse and worse.
Well, it's like those smoking public service announcements, right? Where they're, we've got to break this cycle. We've got to reprogram our minds. And the researchers tell us that after the rats stopped eating less for the second time, they had a 4-fold increase in food efficiency compared to obese animals of the same weight who had not yo-yoed. Translation, the rats who yo-yoed the second time stored food as body fat 400% more efficiently than rats who just did nothing.
And that's not an efficiency we want.
No. Like, literally, this University of Pennsylvania study shows us that doing nothing is 400% better than eating less.
And, and that's what I did, is I stopped cycling and I stopped dieting. And because it wasn't doing anything, I didn't know what to do, but I just stopped. And guess what? Nothing changed.
Yep.
Which was great. I mean, I wasn't getting smaller, but I wasn't getting bigger either.
And you were enjoying food. You had more time to do other things. And let's do one quick analogy here and then one study to wrap up. Carrie, I like to think of, so imagine you're watching television and you see a commercial for a new medication. And that medication tells you it will slightly improve your vision as long as you keep yourself chronically sleep deprived. So it's like, okay, but no, you can have Carrie. You can temporarily have better vision, like X-ray vision, as long as you keep yourself sleep deprived.
Okay.
But then, you know, as happens with most medication commercials, at the end, a quieter voice comes on, starts listing side effects. And one of the side effects the commercial tells you is that, well, your vision's going to become much worse than it ever was if you go back to sleeping a normal amount. Would you ever use that medication?
No.
Why?
Because that would be stupid.
Dare I offer a more articulate...
I think that was very... very articulate.
So let me, okay, may I give an alternate response? I would posit that most of us believe that we know it's not possible to go through the rest of our life tired, so that a temporary benefit such as increased vision is silly, because I'm not going to go through the rest of my life tired just to improve my vision in the short term, only to have my vision get much worse in the long term, because clearly I'm not going to keep myself tired for the rest of my life.
Right.
Okay, but...
See, it's stupid.
No, it's stupid. But Carrie, now look at the actual commercials. People are like, what the hell is this guy talking about? But we see commercials like this, right? Watch TV this week. You will see a commercial for a weight loss meal program that says, if you just stay hungry for the rest of your life, we promise that you will slightly reduce your weight. However, if you ever stop being hungry, we just showed you will gain more weight back than you ever have. Therefore, as Carrie would say, that's stupid.
But they kind of don't market it like that, do they?
They don't. Well, they don't tell you the side effects. And that's maybe the actual title of this podcast episode should be The Side Effects of Starvation.
Right.
Because we do not hear about the side effects, right? And we should. We absolutely should. So to close, we've heard eat less, exercise more, and that doing that makes us weigh less so much that you may be laying in bed tonight and say to yourself, okay, that was interesting. That podcast was interesting, but come on. If I eat less, like there's got to be some truth that eating less means less body fat, right? I mean, come on. Come on, Carrie. There's got to be some truth. Come on.
Temporarily.
Temporarily. Okay, but here's some interesting data around that, just like a longitudinal look.
That supposes that there's nothing biological, nothing hormonal, nothing else going on. If you just eat less, you're going to weigh less.
That's an excellent point. Yes, it trivializes the amazing and beautiful complexity that is the human body into a math equation, which is obviously ridiculous.
Well, but it's a tiny, tiny bit of it, but they're missing all the other bits.
All the other bits. Harvard pointed out those bits. They did a study where they took a massive sample of people, Carrie, 67,272 people, and divided them into 5 groups according to the quantity of calories they ate. They wanted to see, you can imagine, people were like, why are you doing this study? They wanted to see if the people who ate the most calories weighed the most, and if the people who ate the least weighed the least. It's like, why would you do a study on this? Again, I'll post this graph. Carrie, the study showed actually the inverse relationship. They showed that the group of people that ate the most calories had the lowest BMI, and the people that ate the least calories had the highest BMI. That's 70,000 people, basically showing that in 70,000 people, the more you eat, the less you weigh, and the less you eat, the more you weigh. We've reviewed these studies, Carrie, and let's just wrap it up with Dr. Mann here at the University of California, who concludes, we reviewed studies on the long-term outcomes of calorie-restricting diets to assess whether dieting is an effective treatment for obesity. In sum, there is little support for the notion that diets lead to lasting weight loss or health benefits. And Carrie, yo-yo dieting has been proven, shown time and time again to increase our risk of heart attack, stroke, diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer, immune system failure, eating disorders, impaired cognitive function, chronic fatigue, and depression. So to avoid that, Carrie, the good news. How do we avoid this?
Eat! Yay!
Just eat food and enjoy it. Oh my God, that's the happy ending. All we have to do to avoid the end of the world is eat and enjoy food. Yay!
See you then. I'm going to get some grub.
Carrie Brown, Jonathan Bailor, living the smarter science of slim. Eat more, exercise less, smarter, and as Carrie said, eat some food.
Eat some food.
Eat some food, but eat sanely, and have a great week. See you next week.